So here we go. Hi there, and welcome to this Friday's little live session on, let me stop sharing my screen so that you can see me, on does sleep anxiety exist? And sleep anxiety for anybody who has ever been faced with problems around their sleep is a common phenomenon. And it's literally um, the problem is that we can't fall asleep because we're afraid of not being able to fall asleep, right? So we can't fall asleep because we're afraid of not falling asleep. So typically the story goes something like this. We experience a few bad nights of sleep in a row, and a few bad nights could be more than a few bad nights for you. And at some point, like, we know how we feel the next day, right? It's just hard. Like we're running on low energy. We experience a bad mood, maybe, depending on our condition. We don't get our stuff done. We're simply not showing up as the versions of ourselves that we could be, should be, and we're just not feeling as we deserve to feel. So that's kind of the common phenomena. And that leads to us being afraid of experiencing the consequences. Now we know them, right? We know the pain is real when we don't get the amount of sleep that we should get. And now we're afraid of the consequences, leading to us feeling anxious about not being able to fall asleep. And the problem with this is and we're already in the middle of the topic, like the answer to the question, does it exist? Yeah, it does exist. And I'm sure like anybody that ever experienced problems with their sleep over at least a certain period of time knows this phenomena or has experienced it in one way or another. So now what happens technically is that as we know the consequences, we're afraid of that. It's a threat for us, right? It's a threat. We know this, and in our brain, like the amygdala that is responsible for our fight or flight mode, gets activated. Our arousal system, our stress system gets activated. Our brain doesn't really differentiate between a physical threat or a threat that's, just produced in our mind. So the reaction is kind of similar. Now we're lying in bed, our fight or flight mode gets activated. We feel our arousal system moving upward, so we're stressed. Heartbeat goes up, mind sharp, everything we need. And that's exactly the opposite of what we need when we want to fall asleep, right? So that's kind of, and by the way, we're running through the UCA model. This is like the model I'm going to run you through quickly today, 15 minutes only, and then I'm going to open up the session for your personal questions, and I'm going to answer those here on the session. So whenever something resonates to you, just give me a thumbs up, and I'm going to try to keep an eye on that. And if you have any comment, just drop them underneath this video into the comments, and I'm going to pick up on those too. So UCA, 3 levels, we're in layer understanding. It's important to understand what's going on. This is kind of what we just went through, right? Because we need to understand what's going on in ourselves. And this is like the general theme. The opportunity here for you is to think about what specifically, how does this specifically show up in your mind, in your body? Like what happens to you? What do you think about when you feel anxious about your sleep? So we need to understand this, because only when we understand how things are working in our minds, our bodies, we can make the decision, choose a tool that resonates with us, like with your personal situation, with our idiosyncratic way of dealing with these things. And once we have something, we figured out something that helps, we're moving over to automation. Super important. Like, it's often not that we don't know what we should do. That's one problem. But even if we know what we should do, what helps us, it's a complete different story to actually do these things every single day. So we want to generate a habit. We want to let them run on autopilot. As soon as we know what works for us, we're going to let them integrate them and let them move on autopilot, so that we don't even have to think about what we need to do, because doing the right thing is simply our nature. So, okay, we have an understanding what's going on. We're threatened. We know the pain. We fear the consequences. Our fight or flight mode goes up. And now the question is, what tools do I have? What can I share with you? What do you want to implement and give a try to actually reduce the anxiety, get rid of the anxiety? So what can we do? And there's a bunch of options here. So many that I can technically not run through all of them with you here right now. But I'm going to hand over a couple of best practices, a couple of powerful things, and things that are quite simple that you can implement literally today. Number one, and those of you who are following me for quite some time probably know this, go to bed with intention to rest. Like, especially if we don't get the sleep that we need to feel good, to show up as our best versions, we want to pressure ourselves into sleep, right? We want to go to bed and say, oh, I need to sleep. And on top of all of the anxiety that might be going on without all of this, now we're trying to control something that is not controllable. So we're also adding a lot of pressure onto us. And no matter if obviously we want to fall asleep fast, it's not going to help us, right? So the way out is to take away the pressure and to go to bed with the intention to rest. Once you're tired, go to bed with that single one intention, because that's in our control. We can control when we want to rest, right? We can go to bed, we can close our eyes, we can shut up, and we can think about whatever we want to. That's in our control. But we cannot control if we're going to sleep. And trying to control it will make it even harder. So number one, go to bed with the intention to rest. So now the next thing that we can do is actually tied to understanding what's going on. We understand that we're feeling stressed, right? We're feeling anxious. We're feeling under attack, threatened. And one thing that is proven to help is right conscious breathing. Simple as that. And I'm not going to, there are a lot of breathing techniques and I love them. I would encourage you to play around with as many breathing techniques as humanly possible. There's techniques called box breathing, where you breathe in the same amount of time, where you keep your breath, breathe out, and so on. There's nostril breathing, where you switch your nostrils. There's the Wim Hof breathing, where very powerful hyperventilation. But what I'm talking about here is so simple that you might underestimate the power. I'm simply talking about conscious breathing and doing it the right way. What I mean is, you want to breathe in through your nose, keep your breath for a second or two, and breathe out slightly longer than you breathe in. Now that's the first thing you want to focus on. Breathing in slowly through your nose, breathing out through your nose too, keeping your breath just a second or two, and breathing out slightly longer. And when you want to breathe in that conscious way, you want to breathe into your belly, right? Deep breathing. So I'm not talking about deep breathing like blowing yourself up, your lungs up like a balloon. I'm talking about like consciously bringing your breath towards your tummy. Like your tummy doesn't have to explode either. Breathing downwards. Because when we're stressed, we've got shallow breathing typically up here, right? So we want to consciously move it downwards. And what happens when we reverse the way we breathe? Stress triggers our shallow breathing. Once we reverse that consciously, it also has an impact on our parasympathetic nervous system, relaxes us. So that works vice versa, right? A stressful situation can change our breathing. Our breathing, which we can consciously control, luckily, can also impact, or not can, also impacts our fight or flight mode and everything that's going on in our body. So consciously relaxed breathing, very powerful. And when I say like breathe in or breathe out slightly longer than you breathe in, you might want to count seconds. And what I actually do is I count my heartbeats. And this has another powerful effect. Now you're already starting to focus your thoughts on your body. You're focusing on your breath. You're focusing on your heartbeat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe like you decide, like just slightly longer. But all of these things will help you to relax. So conscious breathing, super powerful. Then next thing now, when you're breathing, your thoughts might still pull over to the things that build up the anxiety, right? You figure out what it is in your case, but what you can do is that you can pull your thoughts towards pleasant, rather pleasant ideas, things that are relaxing. And a very powerful thing to do here is simply to run through your day in your mind, because we cannot quiet our brain. Like often people think I need to meditate, or, and I'm going to get that stuff out of my brain, or I'm going to silence my brain. Simply not possible. Our brains are not designed to silence. There is a state where our brains do that. And that state is not called sleeping because we dream, it's highly active. It's called death. So as long as we're alive, we need to recognize and appreciate the fact that our brains are just active. So, but what we can do, again, is to take control and guide our thoughts towards like thankful thoughts. For me, when I wake up at nighttime, or if I can't fall asleep, I just run through my entire day and pick up on as many things I'm thankful for as I can. Like, oh, I woke up this morning. Oh, I was in a warm bed. Like, it was not rainy, it was not wet. I woke up in a warm bed, in a protected space. I had breakfast. Like, I could go to the fridge and get something out of it. Or, for some of you, you might not go to the fridge and get something out there for breakfast, but into a cupboard, or you don't have breakfast at all. It doesn't matter. Find a lot of small things that you can be thankful for. There's a lot of science around gratitude that shows that you're going to feel like, if you do this exercise for 2 weeks or longer, you're going to feel 25% happier, exercise 33% more than you do right now, and on average, people get 30 minutes more sleep. But the effect here is just straightforward. We want to keep our minds busy with pleasant thoughts. And the matter of the fact, that's why I'm sharing it with you here, you cannot feel anxious and thankful at the same time. It's just not possible. So entertain thankful thoughts, practice gratitude, very powerful and very enjoyable too. So let me check in on the little list. Well, there's another tip I want to share with you. Oh yeah, acceptance. Another big topic, nothing to do here. It's just, or maybe there is something I can share with you. Like acceptance is a big one. There's a formula for suffering, right? And suffering, like if we don't sleep over longer periods of time, it's very easy to suffer. But there's a formula to suffering. And the formula is pain. We've got the pain, right? We know we don't feel good if we don't get the amount of sleep. We know the pain. Pain is unavoidable at times. Like pain, suffering equals pain times resistance. Pain, we can't control that. Resistance, absolutely. Like if we start to fight our pain, discuss with it, do whatever we want to in bed, that's not helpful. We're setting ourselves up for suffering if we do that. So what do we want to do instead? We want to accept that pain is possible. We accept the reality that pain is possible, sometimes unavoidable. Not in the fact that we're going to order it. We're not going to order this from the universe, from God, whatever. We're not going to blame God for anything, or the universe, or you name it. People that are sleeping, like sometimes we get angry about people that have a good sleep, right? No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to accept that there is a possible reality that I have a bad night of sleep, and that's okay. And confronting yourself with the fact that you will survive it. No matter what happens tonight, you will survive it, right? There will be bad moments the next day if you don't feel good, like you're feeling tired. You're not going to feel as good as you would if you get a full night of sleep. But there will odds are there will also be nice moments, right? And for sure, you're going to survive it. So that's okay. Embrace the fact that there could be pain, but also convince yourself and know that you will survive this pain. So yeah, I hope, by the way, it's a live session here, and I want to encourage you, like if you're watching this as a replay, just drop a hashtag replay, and definitely, no matter if you're watching this live or if you are watching this as a replay, let me just move over that I get a sight on the Facebook feed. You just drop a comment underneath this video, and I'm going to come back to you. Just need to figure out, here it is. I just had the Facebook window closed, so I cannot see your comments, but I can see them now again. So just drop your questions or anything into the comments that is helpful. And you know, if we're not going to cover it in the video, I'm definitely going to cover it afterwards. And it might even, you know, any topics you drop or share with me might be a topic for a future session like this, where I'm just going to walk you through a couple of ideas. So, but that's like the seed. There's a lot to choose now, right? Acceptance, one thing, confront yourself with, you know, the worst case scenario, to know, give you the good feeling that you're going to survive that. It's going to take away the anxiety, right? You know you're going to survive it. That's okay. Accept it, embrace it. Do breathing techniques, practice gratitude, and go to bed with intention to rest. You've got a portfolio of things to choose from. There are also very powerful coaching techniques that you can do with an NLP or CBT coach. One of them is like talking with our unconscious parts. Like there's every part in ourselves has a good intention. Like there's a part in yourself that wants to sleep, obviously that has a good intention, but also there's a part of you that makes you anxious, right? And even though you know it's not helpful, it is making you anxious. So bringing these parts together in a way that your unconscious parts really connect and agree upon like something that is really helpful for you as a whole person can be very powerful. And if that sounds a little bit too vague, drop me a message and I can do a session all around, you know, a couple of coaching techniques that can be really helpful. You can do them with a friend. You can look a lot of them up. And obviously, it's always good to have an experienced coach to run through these things too. So now we have a good understanding what's going on, right? Here we are, understanding. We have a few options that we can choose from. And now the last thing is the A. I don't want to miss out on this. That's like you want to bring these things into autopilot. Like first, drop me a thumbs up if that makes sense for you. Like, are you clear on where sleep anxiety is coming from, and what we need to do to kind of tackle the cause? And you might have other ideas, I'm sure you do, that resonate with you, that you heard or read somewhere else. If you have some, feel free to share them here in the comments, that tackle the cause of sleep anxiety, because that's what we're talking about when we're choosing our options, right? We want to tackle the cause. So, and once we found something that resonates with us, you try these things. Once you find a thing that resonates with you, that works for you, you want to bring it to the top of the pyramid and you want to run it on autopilot. So creating a habit, super necessary. It's also where 70% of success breaks. Like people typically have a hard time to get started, but once they do, they're very eager to understand and test things and say, oh yeah, I test this, test that, works, check. But then like often failure kicks in when we're not able to do these things automatically. So there are a lot of great books around habits. My message here for you today is you need to become aware that it's not enough to find something that helps you. Once you've got that, you need to figure out and become a pro at creating habits. And there are a lot of things to know here, a lot of great books. I would recommend that you read James Clear's Atomic Habits, probably one of the best books, but there are a lot of awesome books around habits. And if you break it down, number one, it breaks down to repetition. Like you need to repeat these things 30 to 300 times, super important. And there are just a couple of do's and don'ts for habits. A couple of things you need to know is you want to have a trigger, like you want to have something that reminds you of doing the thing or that activates doing the thing on autopilot. So you want to find a trigger for your habit. You want to make it very easy to perform the thing. Like for us, in this case, doing a gratitude exercise is probably a very simple thing. But sometimes it's just important to find out something. Like if you want to get into running, as an example, you want to put your shoes, like when you get up, you want to have your running shoes there. Something that you kind of literally stumble over the thing. It's nearly harder not to do it than to do it. So find things where you can ease it, or you can put in friction to make an old habit harder. And then it's about like performing the action. Good news here, and very important tip, probably the most important tip for today. You can run through these things in your mind and you're already going to build your habit. Very powerful. So if you never tried that before, sit down, visualize yourself going to bed, visualize and literally feel how it feels, not pressuring yourself, running through a gratitude exercise. You can do all of that in your mind and you're already creating the new habit. You can, check it off as a repetition already. And most like to close this cycle, very, very important. And that's, by the way, the things I'm sharing here with you are things that anybody, like if you take all of the books around habits, you're going to find these things overlap. These are the most important things. Talking about Pareto, like 20% of our actions result or give us 80% of our results. These are the 20% that will deliver 80% on your habits. So trigger, adding fear or friction, performing the thing, do it in your mind, and actually do it. And number 4 is celebrate yourself. So once you did it, celebrate yourself. Find something that you can do to reward yourself, starting with, saying something kind to yourself in the mirror, saying, that's like you did it, awesome. But it could also be like a physical reward, having a coffee with a friend somewhere, or, you name it, something that's enjoyable. Celebrate yourself and just upcycle doing this. And at some point, you're going to notice that it's going to be easier and easier to do the thing. And moving forward, at some point, you're just going to be doing it without thinking about it at all. So, and that's true for me doing my cold showers. And you can imagine that took a little bit longer to build that habit. But, I don't think about it. It's just a given. It's a given. Like things, even unpleasant things can become a second nature. And yeah, with that, I'm just going to check in. If you have any questions, like I'm through with what I wanted to share with you here, the UCA model. Think about this pyramid. Think about the things that I shared with you. And if you have anything you want to add in here, then feel free to drop a comment. I'm definitely going to check in on the comments even after the live session. So feel free to, if you're watching this as a replay, or if you watch this as a live and can see that a lot of you have, then feel free to drop something into the comments afterwards. Maybe if you tried something and you want to get an idea how you can tweak it, or something that worked or not have worked that good, just share it with me and I'm going to help you out here. So with that, wishing you a wonderful Friday and a even more wonderful weekend. Yeah, see you in the next live here in the sleep support group powered by Sleeptrust. Bye.